Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you a cool pendant using a crackle and some extruded pieces of polymer clay. So we're going to start out with the crackle, and so what you're going to need is a skinner blend. And so we're going to be doing a skinner blend between turquoise, ecru and white primo. And here are the proportions. Now I'm just going to go turn that into a skinner blend, and if you don't know how to make a skinner blend already, I'll provide a link to that in the description below. Okay, and here is how our skinner blend looks. Now I want to get it down that I can fit the entire blend inside this little square. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to take this, we're going to fold it down until we can't get it folded anymore, so I'll probably be able to get just one more time. There we go. This is also how you can create a skinner blend log as well. There we go. And then once you've done that, just squish it all together and roll it out so it's one piece. And then gently start pressing down on it. And our goal is to reduce it down and get it into almost like a skinner blend plug. And every now and then just give it a roll to smooth out any wrinkles that might be forming. Okay, and I'm pretty sure I feel that air bubble around here somewhere. Can't find it. And I'll just continue squishing this down until I've got it at about that width. Okay, and then once I've got it down, I'll choose the best side, which is there, and I'll gently start pressing it down again. Whoops, that was an accident. If clay does get onto your thing, you can always just scrape it off like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to roll it flat again. And then you'll also want to be just pinching those sides while you're rolling it, because often it can start to expand widthwise, and you don't want that. You only want it to be expanding lengthwise. And I can see a few of our air bubbles. If you can find those, just take your blade and scrape to get rid of them. Okay, now this should be okay to go in the pasta machine. Just roll that out. I'm just going to fold that again and roll it out one more time. And then we'll be able to create our crackle with it. And now, I know that this is a lot more clay than what I need, but the thing is, you use skinner blends in lots of different things. So whenever you're making a skinner blend, especially if it's some colours that you like these, I tend to make a bit more than I actually need, because then that saves me time with other projects. There we are. Okay, and now just gently flatten it. And just have a look, you can sometimes see air bubbles. Like I've got one over here. Just smooth those out. Because those can cause a lot of problems later on, and so it's always better to get rid of them. Now I'll just use my roller to quickly flatten that again. And so I'll spend a little bit of extra time just making sure that I get rid of any air bubbles, and then when I think I've got them all, just to make sure that it's a nice flat even piece, I'll run it through one more time. And now just before I do that, I want to make sure that it's the right width. You can see that it's shrunk down again. So I'll just get it to the right width. You've seen basically all the steps, and I'll just get it down, and then when I am done, we can create our crackle. There we are. So now it's ready to use. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a strip that I think looks best. Now I won't be able to fit about 2 of these on, so that in case I make a mistake, I'll have some extra to work with. And then just take this and layer it back on top of your Skinner blend, and you'll be able to use that now for anything you want. You can just go and store that. Okay, and now we're ready to create our crackle. So I'm just pressing this down onto my piece, onto my tile, checking that this is going to fit nicely, and then grabbing my heat gun, and I'm using an OZITO heat gun, just spelling it out so you can go and look it up if you want. And I've got it, let's see, I've got it on the setting over here. And I'm just going to switch it on, and I want it on my setting number 1, not my setting number 2. And I'll just let it heat up before I come over here. And then once it's heated up, I'll just have it hover over the clay. And that should be enough. Now I just want to show you the difference between these two. I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up, but this is completely matte, whereas this one still has some shine. So you'll know when this is cured by the fact that it has some matte. And you should still be able to press on it and feel the clay giving underneath. And that should be good enough for your crackle. So the back should be still shiny, and the front should be completely matte. Now what I want to do is I want to be very careful with this. And I want to just go and cause cracks to appear. And I might want to put a little backing on this actually. We'll see how it goes. And this is why I'm saying you should always make a little bit more of the Skinner blend than you need, because in case you do make a mistake here, I could just roll out that one and just quickly cure another piece of clay, rather than having to go and do that Skinner blend all over again. So I'm just going to continue going up here, cracking as I go. So you can see them starting to appear, but if you fold it back down, they're not going to appear. So I'm just going to gently stretch that when I am done cracking along these edges. And it's quite cool to do this, but it's also a little nerve-wracking because you have to be very careful. So hold your fingers in support when you're doing this, and go slowly because you can very easily break the clay. So if you're a little nervous and don't want to break your clay by accident, and you feel like it is going to do that, you can always just pop a backing onto the back here where the raw stuff is. Okay. And I want lots of fairly small cracks. I don't want any large areas because we're going to be filling in this crackle with either white or black or brown, depends on the next bit of the project. It's probably going to be brown, but I like to keep my options open. Okay, and we're just about done here. Okay, and then when you feel like you're happy with it, gently stretch one way and then stretch the other way. And you can use your tile to help you with that. And I can see that it is breaking up on the back. So if that happens, instead of continuing, just grab a piece of clay for a backing, and I have a nice bit of black here that's already been rolled out, and I'm just going to roll this out on a thinner setting. I'm going to roll this out on my second thinnest setting because we don't need too much of a backing. So just gently take it and see if you can smooth over those cracks. Then grab your backing clay and pop it on. And you can use this backing clay to your advantage as well. You can now use that to stretch. Now some areas are going to crack open a lot more than others. That's perfectly fine. You can use your fingers to gently press on it to get some areas to crack open a little bit more than what they are, and to close up some areas that might be cracking a little bit too much. Just play with it and get it the way you want. And then I'll just take my roller at the end of that and just gently roll to get that flat. Okay. And I'm just going to trim away this excess black that we don't need. Okay. And then pick up with your blade. Okay, and now if you're using any cutter to cut this out, don't cut it from the front. Always cut it from the back, because this will give your crackle a bit of support. Because if you're cutting from the front, especially if you're using a plastic cutter, even with metal cutters I have this sort of problem, you'll be cutting and you're going to split the clay, some of them are going to fall off, and it just creates quite a mess. So I've learned you should always cut from the back. Okay, and just position it somewhat in the middle, and then press down firmly. And you should come up with a pretty clean crackle. And now I just want to show you what will happen if you cut from the other way. So all I like to do now though is I like to just grab my blade and I like to just trim it a touch further, because there are just some little bits hanging out there. There we are. And you can see there's very little on the blade there, but it's just a little bit that you want to do, that you do want to trim up. So just pop that to the side. That is our first little bit, but I do want to show you what's going to happen if you cut this out from the front. And I don't want to waste a lot. I want to get another piece if I can. So I'm going to cut one out from the back. Got a nice cut again. Okay, now I want to show you what it looks like from the front, since I'm not going to be able to get another piece out of there. There we are. So hopefully you can see there that it creates this kind of bevel, and you've got these pieces that are coming out, and it doesn't give as clean a finish. So you can see there that you've got cracks and all sorts of things. So don't cut from the front, always the back. So I just pop those off to the side, quickly clean up. And now we are going to move on to the next step, which is going to be to create our snakes. So you're going to need some sort of a sandy texture. You can use sandpaper. I'm using this a little bit more textured piece. It's my sand polymer clay texture, but you can use any texture you want. And then you want a piece of clay that's been rolled out on your thickest setting, the same as your crackle was. And just take that and gently press it into your sandy texture. And you can use any texture you want, just make sure that it's a fairly light, unintrusive texture. Now gently lift that up. You can see just a nice light sandy texture. And I'm just going to remove the excess. And I just want to make sure that's going to fit my cutter. Yes. Alright, so next step is to take your cutter, and I'm using this nice square donut cutter. It's my square donut number 5, and this is the 50mm or the 5cm one. And all I'm going to do is I'm just gently going to press a little bit, and that's just going to give me an outline to work with for the moment. And pop that off to the side, and you're going to need an extruder, or you can roll these little snakes by hand, but an extruder works the best. So just grab some ecru, pop it in, and then you're going to want some sort of a disc that is going to get you some nice snakes. So let's see, I think I'm going to use possibly that one, or let's see if I can get a slightly thinner one. Okay, I think this one will probably work better. I think I'm going to use that one. No, I'm going to use this one. Just pop it in there. And this extruder I do sell on my Etsy shop if you want to check that out. By the way, Lucy clay discs also fit into this extruder if you're curious. Okay, and now I'm just going to bring that up. And now I've made this ecru polymer clay is quite firm, because I wanted to see if I could get little cracks along these snakes that I'm bringing out. And that should be enough for now. And yeah, that's the right thickness. Now grab this, and all I want you to do is just take your snakes and maybe just take your hands and just gently squish them so that they're not completely round, because we're going for a really nice organic texture here. So I've just kind of squished them so that they're not completely perfect here. And just take them and gently pop them onto your clay. And I don't want too many, just want a few. And I'll just continue layering these. This is about as dense as I want it here. I do want the black to show through. And just crisscross them over each other. Like so. And then we will use that donut cutter that we had before to cut it out so they're not intrude, so they are nicely cut into the right sort of shape. But for now, don't worry about doing that. Okay, now that you have finished that up, just grab your texture stamp and just gently tap over the top. You don't need to be too aggressive with it. You just want to be getting a little bit of texture in there. You don't have to get all of it. It's just supposed to be kind of this random thing. There we are. Okay. Now we're going to take our donut cutter and we're going to line it up with the seam that we had before. Okay. And then once lined up, press. Okay. And I just want to double check that I did press in the middle correctly. I've got this really beautiful netted texture. And now most of the time, especially since we were using hard ecru, you can get these snakes off pretty easily. So just go with your black quickly before they stick and just quickly get off most of that ecru. Okay, and now bring over your crackle and it should fit in here quite nicely. Okay. I'm just going to pick these both up, and don't worry if that border gets out of shape, that's fine. What we're going to do is we're just quickly going to put a backing together, so roll out another sheet of black clay. Okay, I'm just going to move these right out of the way, and then take a texture for your back, and I'm just using this crackle roller. Just pressing. There we are. And that can be the texture for our back. Just trimming up those sides. Okay. And then flip that over. And now I recommend working on a piece of greaseproof paper. deli paper will also work. And now first put your crackle on and just press on it lightly. Then grab this. This can be a little bit of a delicate situation. Just gently fit it. And it's okay if it gets a little distorted because we're just going to grab our donut cutter and we'll just cut it out again. And then just press on your crackle a little to get it to fit into place. Okay, and we're not going to use our donut cutter actually, we're going to use this cutter. Okay, just going to get that into place. And also I just want to retexture the tops here. So I'll just mess with it and get these all kind of stuck into each other correctly, and then we'll cut it out. Okay. And I'm using one size down. Lining that up, making sure that it looks good on all sides. Okay. Now press down. Just make sure that you did get it. There we go. Okay, and there is our piece. Gently go around and smooth those sides. Okay. And then what we're going to do when this is baked is I want to antique this with some dark brown. And then we're also going to put a little rose on there. So I'm just going to pop that off to the side. And I'm going to just make a few more of those little ecru snakes. Okay, and you just want one long one. What you're going to do is you're just going to form a little round there, and then kind of just form it into this rough rose-like shape. And this can be a little tricky. The trick is actually to kind of overlap them without squishing them. And I'm going to try this a few times and actually went off camera there, I do apologise. Just gently roll up a nautilus shape and flip to the other side. And just when you're doing this, be careful not to squish it too much. There we go, and that's kind of what we're looking for. I'm going to make a few because I want to see if I can get a flatter one, because I want to sit it in the middle there, just to create almost like a little centre point. But I want to do a few, and I might actually try using a thinner snake there. So anyway, once I have made that, I'm going to take this and the little rose, I'm going to put them on a piece of greaseproof paper, and I'm going to pop them in the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and then when they're done we can do some antiquing. We can just sit that little rose on top over there when we're done with some liquid clay, bake that, and we're going to also be making a bale. And actually I should probably make the bail now, because that will be easier. So let's do that. So I want to hang it as a square. So let's make the bail before we bake it. That will be easier. So just grab some black clay and roll it out on your thickest setting, like so. Then take your roller that you used before, or whichever texture you chose to use before, and gently roll that over your piece. Trim up your excess. Trim to about the right size. And I'm just going to take acrylic, a little straw here. I'm going to roll this up. Trim. And just gently press those pieces together, because this is the part that's going to go up against your piece. So you don't have to worry about the texture getting squished. Just fill in that seam. There we are. And our trick is to actually get this off without it getting distorted. So I'm just going to press my blade up against it and see if I can get it off that way. There we are. Okay, then just gently press on both edges to get it back. Piece. And let's just make sure that we position it right. I want the blue side up. Oops. So I'm just going to get this into position. Okay. And then when it's in the right position, just take a skewer and press. You just want to be careful with your pressing, because you don't want to overdo it and squish your texture on the front. You can also use it to help widen up that hole a bit. Okay, and then I'll bring over some liquid clay. Okay, now I've just popped a little bit of Kato liquid clay along over here. Just take that on my skewer, and this is translucent liquid clay too. And I'm just going to pop it along the bail. And you want a small amount, you don't want it to be too intrusive. The translucent is quite nice because you can see it at the moment, whereas if you did black it would be a little hard to see. And once it's baked it will go completely translucent, so you don't have to worry about not being able to see it. So I'll just paint liquid clay around, because this is where your piece is going to hang, and so you want to make sure that it is well secured onto your piece. So paint on plenty of liquid clay. And then once I've got liquid clay painted the whole way around, I will now put that in the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and I will just make the little rose in the meantime. Okay, so I made a thinner snake. Now I want to show you how to make that rose. So just bend it in. Just roll it to the size that you would like it to be at. Actually, it's sometimes easier to just kind of wrap it yourself. and overlap them, and because we're going to antique this, and so the more interesting wraps we have, the better. But I don't want it to be too high. I want it to kind of sit flat. Okay, and I'm just going to gently press it so that it's all the right shape. But you can see that came out much better than the last one. So I think that's a good rose. Okay, and I'm just going to bake that with the other one. Okay, and here is how they look now that they are out of the oven and cooled. So you can see that other than a slightly shiny edge, you can't see the liquid clay. And the edges around here need a little bit of a sand, but they're pretty smooth, so I'm not going to worry about putting a little smear on there. And the front, pretty happy with. And again, here is where the rose is going to sit. I'm not sure if I've got that symmetrical or not. Probably more around there, but that is basically where the rose is going to sit. But we'll do the rose as soon as we have done some antiquing. So you're going to want a dark brown paint, and I'm using burnt sienna and a little bit of carbon black. So I'm just going to open both of those. I'm just going to pop a tiny amount of the black down, and then quite a bit more of the sienna. And then I'm just going to take a skewer, and I'm just going to roughly mix them before I bring my brush in. There we go, so we've got a nice dark brown, and I think I might want a little bit more black in there actually. I want it just off black. So I added quite a bit more black there. Yeah, that's quite close to the colour that I want, but just a little bit brown. So I'll continue messing with it. There we are. So it's a really dark brown. Now I'm going to just take my brush, and I've decided that I want to keep these cracks. I want to antique them so that they're not just appearing the same colour that the surface is, but I don't want to fill them with clay, I decided. Now just take your brush and get all of that paint up and into all of those cracks. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab a wet wipe here, and I'm just going to dry off my brush. And then I'm going to grab my brush, and I'm going to just take it and wipe it across my pendant, and this will remove a fair amount of my excess. Because we don't need all of that paint. And I'll just let that sit and dry for a minute, and we're going to do the rose as well. Okay, and this one's going to make a bit of a mess. That's fine. Antique that rose. Okay. Now that I'm done with that one, I'm going to just pop that off to the side as well. I'm going to clean my brush, my hands, and I'm just going to wipe up this paint. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to start cleaning up my pendant. So first thing to do is going to be to clean up these sides so that I'm not getting paint all over my fingers. So just take a wet wipe or a wet cloth and just clean up those sides. And now when you're doing the next bit, you want to be very careful, so just pop it onto your finger like so and just brush. And we're just going to be getting rid of most of it. You don't want to be too aggressive with this because we'll remove too much. So go into those gaps, make sure you remove a fair amount, but don't be too aggressive with it. So you want to leave a haze almost, and you would let that dry and then we'll wipe that off. It's much easier to clean it up nice and tidy once it is dry. But just go in and amongst these and dab off your paint. And this is why I wanted that paint really dark, so that it doesn't really interfere with the black. It still looks pretty black. Okay, almost done, and then I'll just let it dry. Okay, so it's been drying. Now I'm just going to take a cloth that is completely dry and I'm going to wipe. Okay, I can see that a fair amount of that is coming off. Now I'm just going to grab a little bit of the cloth, and this is completely optional. You can wait until it completely dries and then use a wet wipe, but I'm just grabbing some 99% alcohol and just touching that to my cloth. And this will help me remove specific sections of paint. And this just takes a lot of patience to just get it right. And so I'll just continue cleaning that up until it's nice and clean. Just don't heat set it. That's the most important thing here. If you heat set it, say use a heat gun to dry the paint quicker, you will have set that paint and you won't be able to get it off unless you sand it. So let it dry naturally and just avoid heat setting, because that's just asking for trouble. And then just continually go around and clean it. Okay. And so after persistent cleaning, here is what we have, and it looks really nice. We've picked up the slight sandy texture that we have on these little extruded pieces, and we've got a nice dark contrast between the cracks and the Skinner blend. So now what we want to do is we want to clean our rose, which has been drying for a little while. All you need to do is grab a wet wipe and the rose, and you should be able to rub that rose on the wet wipe, and that should clean it up very well. Okay, just remember to get those edges as well, and you just want that paint in the recesses of the piece. And there we are, that is our rose, and I might just tend to it a little bit more. There we are. Okay, and then I'm just going to quickly heat set these with my heat gun, and then we can get on to sticking the rose onto our pendant. There we are, and then once heat set, we will stick a little bit of liquid clay on the back of our rose. And I'm just using Kato translucent again. And we just need a little bit, you don't want to overdo this, because otherwise it moves around a lot. So that should be enough. Okay, then just grab that, position it in the way you would like it to sit. Okay, and I'm just going to see whereabouts that should sit in the pendant. Okay, and there we go. I think that's about the center. And I've decided I'm going to call this piece Desert Rose, because I like that it's kind of got this like dried, cracked up background, and this is kind of like the desert in the sky. You've got the little rose there, and this one, it's almost like a tumbleweed sort of effect, and it's just got those sorts of colours, and I just really like it, so I'm going to call it my desert rose piece. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake this on a tile, and because of the bail, I'm going to take a tile and I'm going to sit it off to the edge. So let's pretend that this polymer clay stamp that I have lying around here, let's pretend that this is a tile. I'm only going to set it up to the bail, so it's going to sit about there, and that's where I'm going to bake it, because otherwise this liquid clay can slide around, and also you're going to squish the bail, so you need to have it sitting so that the bail is sitting flat and the pendant is sitting flat. And I'll bake that for about half an hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and then after that we'll just give it a quick buff with some Renaissance wax. No sanding needed in this project, and then we can get to stringing. Okay, and so our piece is out of the oven. It's a little bit warm, and so I want to just leave it to cool down before we sand the sides and give it a buff. So in the meantime we're going to start assembling our cord. So I've got 6 pieces of hemp here, and all we're going to do is grab one of these cord ends, and we're just going to take each of these and line them up, and I want to plait this. So I'll show you to the best of my ability how to plait it. I'm just trying to grab each of these. There we go. Okay, and let's see how tricky it is to get it into here. It's a little bit too big for it, but I'll just continue twisting, and generally that will get it up into the spout of the thing. Okay, and so after a bit of persuasion, I managed to get it in. Now I'm just going to take this and squeeze. And I shouldn't need to squeeze all that much because, well, it fits here pretty well. Now I'll just give a quick tug before I do anything with it, see if it's nice and on there. And it is. Okay. Then we'll need a jump ring. And just repeat what I'm doing on this end with the other end. Just open up the jump ring, and I'm going to grab my clasp. Close that up, and then just so that I can plait it easily, I'm going to latch it onto the bottom of my stand here. I'm just going to grab this ring and I'm just going to hook it onto the bottom so that I can plait this. Now I'm just going to get it started. So to get started, you're just going to grab 2 and then another 2. Okay, and now I'm just going to get this plaiting until it comes up to here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got it coming up, and so you're just plaiting. Pretty easy. And you'll just plait the whole way up the length of your necklace until you get to the other end, and then you'll attach your other crimp, or cord end actually, and then attach your clasp, or not, don't actually attach your clasp yet, just attach your cord end. And then we can move on to finishing up our pendant. Okay, and here is our cord ready to go. So now I'm just going to grab my pendant, and I've quickly sanded the sides with some wet dry sandpaper from a 400 all the way up to a 1200, and so now we're ready to just give it a quick buff. So you're going to need some Renaissance wax. Grab that, and I'm just grabbing a little bit on my finger. I don't know why there's so much traffic today. and just gently put it on. You don't want to put on too much because it can get stuck in your texture and then you aren't able to get it out again. And the buffing will get out most of it, but you just don't want to be clogging up your texture. So just rub it on. Make sure to get the edges as well. Okay. And this is only necessary because I want to give it a little bit more of a sheen. There's no reason to put the Renaissance wax on other than to give it a little bit of an extra sheen. You don't need it to seal anything, so you don't have to use the Renaissance wax if you don't want to. Now I'm just going to take my Dremel 3000 and my handmade buffing wheel, and I'm going to buff. Okay, and there we are. You can see that it has a nice sheen to it. And if you want to dull it up, you can just give it a quick rub, which is what I will do. Just give it a rub, and that will just slightly dull it up a little bit. Okay, and so all you need to do now is take your finished piece of cord, and I did put the clasp on because I found that it can go through my bail. Thread that on, close up your clasp, and there is your finished necklace. Let me just get that all nice and even. And there we are, all finished, all done. Really easy, shouldn't take much more than probably around 2 hours of work without the oven baking time, and 2 hours is leaving a lot of time. It actually took me probably around an hour's work to make this, not including the baking time. So it's a really quick and easy pendant. You can do it in lots of different colours. I think it would look quite nice in maybe some reds and oranges with the black. So you maybe change this to a red, orange and then white, and these snakes could be like a really bright orange colour with antiqued brown paint like we did, and then black backing as well. That could look really nice. I'm debating on whether I want to make that as well, but yeah, it's a really nice technique. You can use it in lots of things. Remember, you don't have to use a square. You could try a round, you could try an oval, rounded square. There's lots of things that you could do, so play around with the technique, see what you can do, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. I did enjoy making this project, and I would like to hear your thoughts on it, as it is always great to hear. And if you would like to see more tutorials like this, please do consider signing up to my Patreon account, where I have polymer clay tutorials every single month. I have coupon codes to my Etsy shop and lots of cool things on there. I also have an exclusive Facebook group for my Patreon followers, so please do check that out, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.